The Beef Today report is brought to you by CattleExchange.com, connecting cattle buyers and sellers nationwide.
In our Beef Today report, steps toward establishing a massive grassland preserve in Montana took a major leap forward. A conservation group announced the purchase of the South Ranch in northeastern Montana. The 150,000 acres more than doubles the American Prairie Reserve's holdings in that region. So far, the group has raised nearly $50 million. It hopes to create a multi-million acre wildlife reserve complete with thousands of roaming bison. Cattlemen in the area say it's just more outside money taking Montana ranch land out of production. After nearly 2 decades of negotiations, Russia has joined the World Trade Organization. Russia was allowed to enter despite refusal of the U.S. to grant permanent normal trading relations. That means Russia will keep higher trade tariffs with the U.S. than other countries. House and Senate committees have voted to grant PNTR, but the measure has not reached the floor yet. U.S. Meat Export Federation says Russia is one of the fastest growing markets for U.S. beef. Through May, exports to Russia were 24% ahead of last year. Livestock producers are fretting this year's drought. Which end user is most at risk? Farm Director Al Pell has some possible answers in analysis.
Darren Frye from Water Street Solutions is talking to me off camera. We were talking about livestock and who is actually going to limit the supply of feed for livestock. And in use of corn, is it going to be the ethanol people, or is it going to be China buying our corn, or who's actually going to limit it?
You know, it's hard to say, but we know the USDA has made about 2.5 billion bushel of cuts in demand. Yes. Somewhere around 1.5 in feed, somewhere around 500 million in ethanol, and about 600 million in exports. And so one has to wonder, are they going to be able to get exports down under 1.3? That's where we're currently at. Maybe they can get them to 1.2, so maybe that's another 100 million.
Well, if we got to raise our prices up to do that.
We're going to have to raise our prices, not only get to the levels we have, but what if this crop is smaller? And they've already cut a huge amount out of feed. But I have a feeling that livestock folks, whether it's the dairy or the hogs or the cattle, they're going to have to ration this demand. I think it's going to fall on the backs of the swine and of the dairy. And a lot of producers don't have their feed or forage needs locked in, and therefore when those prices go higher, if the product they produce doesn't, such as the milk or the pork prices, then that's going to do the rationing. And so I look for...
I mean, some of those guys are going to have to go out of business, basically, or produce less.
Yep, we've seen sow kill, we've seen cow sales up. We know that some of the herd's been liquidated, yeah. But that is where meat prices, if they don't support higher prices to feed this corn and people have not locked in their needs, it's going to fall on the backs of the livestock producer. And we have to be aware that that is probably where the rationing is going to happen. Every
time I go to the Soybean Association, they say our #1 user is the livestock producer.
Yeah, that's exactly right. They've been a great client of not only the corn, right, but the bean meal as well. And it's unfortunate, but I think that whoever can pay the most will get it, and whoever does not have those things hedged will either suffer with red ink on their balance sheet or have to reduce the size of their herd or the size of their factory to be able to accommodate for the higher prices.
Will we know by next April what the situation was?
We certainly will. We certainly will. And I think you've already started to see the beginnings of that. I think most of the rationing has been done in livestock thus far, and I think it'll continue to be that way.
Okay, thank you very much, Darren Frye, guest here on Ag Day. Back for more in a moment.
For marketing strategy specific to your operation, contact Water Street Solutions at 866-249-2528 or online at www.waterstreet.org.